Story is The Reluctant Thief. And this is a story of 3 generations of thieves in a family. And you will know why it's called The Reluctant Thief soon. So, in a remote place in Bengal, there once lived a very famous thief called Baba. It's a very common Bengali name. Now, Baba was a really gifted thief right from childhood. He was so gifted in his thievery that one day he stole a mat just like this, the way you are sitting on it. He stole it when his aunt was sitting on a mat and sewing a quilt. And he stole the mat right from under her when she was sitting on it. That was his skill. And his aunt was so mesmerized by this that she started crying. She said, "Hey Bhagwan, Hari, may you be blessed, Baba, with a long life of thievery and stealing, and may you become famous." And the aunt's words and blessings came true, and Baba truly grew up to be a very blessed thief with lots of skills and very famous in his region. And he could not only steal, he had many other skills which are needed to aid him in stealing. He could run miles very fast, he could climb over high walls, he could walk on stilts, and many such skills that were needed in those days in the villages to steal. Now Baba had a son whose name was Nobo, and like a good traditional thief, he taught the tradition to his son Nobo. And Nobo turned out to be even more skillful than his father. You know, the son always stands on the father's shoulders, so he was taller as a thief than his father. And Nobo was so skillful that once he had gone to a zamidar, the local zamidar's son's birthday party, and where everybody in the village and other villages were invited, and Nobo was watching the zamidar's old uncle taking out a pan from a pan case, and before the uncle could put that pan in his mouth, Nobo stole it. And for a long time, the uncle kept chewing on his own tongue, didn't even realize that the pan was gone. Where did the pan go? And then he looked at Nobo, and Nobo was smiling and having his pan. And seeing this, watching this, the zamidar was mesmerized, like how Baba's aunt was mesmerized. And the zamidar said, "What skill, Nobo? This skill can be very much used in my court. So I want to appoint you the official thief of my court. And you don't have to do a thing. I will pay for everything. You just stay in my court like Tansen used to do in Akbar's court, and you can just keep practicing your art of thievery." Now, Nobo was not very excited about this idea, and he said, no, Zamidar said, "Zamidar Moshe, mujhko maaf karo. Please forgive me. I like to stay sovereign and I like to freelance. I don't want to sell my skills to you. Please, if you want any services from me, call me. I'll come and do it for you. But I don't want to join your court." So the Zamidar did not force Nobo, and Nobo went on his way. And as he grew a little more mature, he learnt many other skills, like he could make different voices of birds and dogs and lions and tigers and all kinds of voices to trick people. Then he also was skilled in martial art, and he was very strong. He could lift tons of things and run very fast so that no one could catch him. Of course, he knew all the other skills of walking on stilts and climbing over walls, and he also knew a lot of magic tricks, because using those magic tricks he could put barking dogs to sleep and things like that. So he was really skilled. Now Nobo had a son whose name was Potash. But every family has a black sheep, as we know. Potash turned out to be the black sheep. He was not interested in thieving. So let's call him the white thief, the white sheep actually. But Nobo tried his best to teach his son all the skills of thievery, and took Potash along with him for various outings in the night when he went stealing. And on one such outing, what Potash did was, he went and he saw the dogs were sleeping, and those dogs were his friends during the day, because Potash would just loaf around the village. And he was very hurtful to see that the dogs were sleeping and not greeting him. So he took some stones and pelted them and woke up the dogs dog started barking and there was a huge ruckus in the house, and Potash and Nobu had to run away from there. And Nobu came home and gave a huge lecture to Potash. He said, I teach you every day and you learn nothing. You're good for nothing, son. How will you survive if you don't learn the family skill? But Potash listened from this year and it was out from the other year. But Nobu didn't give up. Again one night, Nobu said, okay, this time you go on your own. I will not go with you. Maybe when I am not there, you will do your work better. So Potash said, okay. So Potash went to the local moneylender's house and he started knocking on the door. The moneylender woke up and said, who is there at this hour in the night? So Potash says, it's me, I have come to steal, please open the door. The moneylender said, what nerve? First of all, you come to steal and then instead of doing your job quietly, you wake me up. My God, you're such a bad name to your family tradition of stealing. Come on, let's go to your father. And the moneylender dragged Potash to his father and Nobu and complained about him. Said, and told Nobu, what kind of a father you are? You're not teaching your son any of the skills. Look, he comes to steal and then he wakes me up and creates a ruckus. You should have just stolen and left quietly. Nobu said, hey Bhagwan, what to do with this son of mine? And he apologized to the moneylender and said, next time I will come to steal. So again, Nobu kept giving his son different chances. And once there was a big marriage party in the village, and as you know, in marriage parties there's jewelry and cash and stuff like that lying around. So Nobu and Potash went again to steal in the night. And as Nobu was picking the lock, Potash got tired waiting, and he started yawning, and he saw an empty bed amongst many beds where people were sleeping. And he just went and lay down there and went off to sleep. And Nobu was so busy picking the lock that he didn't realize that Nobu was not around. Anyway, he was of no use. So Nobu stole everything from the safe and everything, and he went home thinking that Potash must have gone home already, bored with this. And the next day around noon, he sees his son coming, stroking his stomach and burping around. And Nobu was furious. He said, where were you? I looked for you everywhere. And Potash said, oh sorry, actually I felt so sleepy, I went off to sleep there. Nobu was flabbergasted. You slept in the house that I went to steal in. Where did you sleep? He said, no, one of the beds was empty, I went to sleep. Then Nobu was, then why are you so late now? And Potash says, I woke up late, they saw me, they saw a stranger and they woke me up and then they gave me breakfast. And while having breakfast, I told them the whole story, why I was found there. And they are coming now with sticks and all to beat you up. That's it. That was the final nail in the coffin. Now beat Potash up and disowned him from all his property, announced in the village that Potash is no longer my son. And poor Potash, what could he do? He went away from the village. He walked and he went to another village. And now he had no other skills but how to steal. And that also he didn't know well. So he started doing odd jobs with people, and somebody took pity on him and kept him as a helper in the house, where he helped around in the house. This continued for a year or so, and then one day suddenly in the night, he found that he woke up and he started rummaging through the drawers, picking the locks and stealing very easily and smoothly. He got so frightened of his own hands, he was about to scream, chor, chor, chor. And then he realized it was him who was stealing, and he quickly ran away from that house because he got so frightened of himself. But he had to survive, so again he took up a job in another village in somebody else's house. But that stealing habit started to awaken very big time in him, and he found himself stealing even more smoothly than his father and his grandfather. But he knew that, but his conscience also kept tricking him. So he would steal, run away from that house, spend the money, and again go to another house, steal, spend the money, go with this, went on for a long time. And after many years, now Potash was almost a young man of 30, and he came to this town. And he found various fancy houses over there. And now, by then, what had happened to Potash's father was that he had become old. He could not steal anymore. So he started a business of money lending with all the wealth that he had acquired. And he built a formidable house with iron rods and windows, which no thief could enter. Because he knew he was a thief, right? Now Potash saw this formidable beautiful, huge mansion, and he knew that there would be a lot of wealth stored in there. So he very skillfully, within few minutes, broke in and he started rummaging through the drawers and safes. And Nobu knew the sounds of a thief because he's been a thief all his life. And he woke up, took his stick, but he was very feeble. He couldn't walk. His voice was not strong enough, and he started very feebly shouting, "Chor, chor, bachao, bachao, chor." But Potash stole everything and he was out of the house. So